Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so today we're jumping straight into a pretty dense stack of sources you shared. And these all focus on, well, a sector where consumer trust can be, let's say, volatile. Margins are tight, and online perception really does seem to hold the keys to the kingdom because we're talking about the automotive industry. Yeah, we're looking beyond just the general idea of, good customer service. The sources you sent over, they really highlight this intense, specialized world of online reputation management, and it's needed for everyone from those huge car dealerships right down to like the local repair shop down the street.
Yeah.
We're talking about a landscape where, while a few misplaced stars online could potentially halt a massive revenue stream. Okay, let's unpack this.
It's absolutely critical. And the urgency, it's driven entirely by modern buyer behavior. And frankly, the sheer size of the transaction involved. I mean, buying a car, authorizing a major repair, it's high risk for the consumer, which means they are highly motivated to find any reason, any little flaw, really, to eliminate a vendor from their list. So the main goal for us here, I think, is to understand precisely how reviews have become this sort of ultimate digital gatekeeper, dictating where customers choose to spend their money, on vehicles, on service, everything.
And what immediately jumps out at me when you look at the material are these staggering statistics. They really quantify the sort of consumer veto power we're talking about. This isn't just theory, right? This is the market reality. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, we analyzed a few key benchmarks from the sources, and the most, well, devastating one for dealers is this. Over 86% of potential car buyers actively avoid dealers with low star ratings.
Yeah.
Just think about that scale. If your rating slips, even just a bit below what's considered standard in your market, you're not just losing a few shoppers here and there. You are essentially structurally blocking access to 4 out of every 5 potential customers. They're literally eliminated you from consideration before they even glance at your inventory or your financing options. Gone.
Wow. That statistic, it paints a really clear picture for the sales floor, definitely. But we have to remember the other side of the business too, right? The back end. If the new car sale is sort of protected by reputation, what about that crucial service bay revenue? It turns out that side is just as vulnerable, maybe even more so.
Precisely. Yeah, for that non-sales part of the business, the sources show more than 70% of automotive service customers read reviews before they will even schedule repairs. Think about it. Service revenue is the backbone of most large dealerships, and it's the absolute lifeline for independent repair shops. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, it shows that digital reputation is way more than just a marketing expense. It's like the core infrastructure of the business's financial health. Reviews unlock those initial sales, and they protect that essential recurring service revenue.
Okay, so if the stakes are that high across the whole industry, it stands to reason that the kind of reputation management needed can't just be a generic one-size-fits-all offering. The sources you shared, they identify this really diverse ecosystem of clients, and they all seem to need specialized help, but for very different reasons.
That's a really critical distinction, yeah. The source material, it details 4 specific client categories, each with a unique trust challenge. First, you've got your traditional new and used car dealerships. Big players, their challenge, managing just a high volume of reviews and fighting that old stereotype, the pushy salesperson.
Yeah.
They're battling that 86% avoidance rate, but on a massive scale.
Okay, that makes sense. And then you have the independent repair shops.
Right.
Their reputation battle sounds like it's usually hyper-local, focused entirely on competence and maybe pricing fairness.
Exactly. The customer's already stressed, right? Their car's broken.
Yeah.
And that 70% of customers reading reviews, they're looking specifically for reassurance. Reassurance they won't be overcharged or, sold work they don't need.
Right, avoiding that feeling of being taken advantage of when you're vulnerable.
Precisely. And the third category mentioned, the used car dealers. They face, well, maybe the biggest uphill battle for trust, just because of information asymmetry, maybe some historical bad actors in that space. For them, a flawless, actively managed reputation isn't just helpful. It's pretty much the only way to mitigate that high perceived risk of buying used. And finally, the sources mention specialty automotive services too.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Things like high-end body shops, custom performance tuners, maybe transmission specialists, niche players. Their ORM needs often focus more on showcasing highly technical, very specific expertise, not just general friendliness.
Got it. So it's really clear this isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of problem. Different needs, different strategies. Okay, let's pivot now. Let's
Right.
talk about the how. What specific actions are actually detailed in the sources? How do businesses tackle these varied challenges? What stands out to me here is this idea of dual strategies, like a strong defense for damage control, but also a proactive offense, building up that positive profile.
Yeah, exactly. On the defensive side, the core mission is mitigation. Damage control. This starts with just continuous online reputation monitoring. So you have to know immediately when a negative review hits, like right away.
Huh.
Then comes the often complex process of repairing damaged reputations. And crucially, this often relies heavily on technical strategies, specifically pushing down negative search results.
Okay, pushing down, that sounds like pure SEO, right? Search engine optimization.
It is, yeah.
How is that specialized for the auto sector, and what does that actually involve, like, in practice?
Well, it is deeply intertwined with SEO, but it has a very specific context here. Pushing down a bad review, say a really damning Yelp complaint that's ranking high on Google for the business name. It usually means ensuring that whole first page of search results is just filled exclusively with higher authority, positive content. This often requires things like mass citation building, focusing on make and model specificity, basically drowning out that single complaint about, say, an oil change gone wrong. By promoting dozens of trusted industry forum mentions, high-authority business directory listings, official company profiles, things like that. It's about creating, like, a firewall of positive digital assets.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. You have to build more positive signals to sort of outweigh or bury the negative one. Now, let's look at the flip side then, the offense. This involves proactively building and strengthening visibility. It's about increasing what the sources call genuine positive reviews and establishing authentic positive profiles.
Yes, exactly. The offense is all about construction, building things up. Key components include improving overall brand visibility and, critically, for local businesses, maximizing the potential of Google Business Profiles, GBPs. Optimizing that GBP. I mean, that's the modern equivalent of having the best storefront location on Main Street. Seriously, it determines your local search dominance, and it often serves as the absolute first point of contact for that 70% of service customers looking for a repair shop nearby.
Okay, but hang on. How do you actually manage to capture genuine positive reviews? Because asking for them often feels, I don't know, artificial or forced. Does the source material give us any clues on a strategy for capturing that authentic feedback more organically?
It does, yeah. And the strategy seems to be integration, making it seamless. The sources emphasize making the review request just a smooth part of the post-transaction workflow, especially in the service bay. So instead of like an aggressive email blast a week later asking for a review, they suggest implementing technology that lets a customer who's just had a successful repair leave feedback immediately, right while they're still on site, maybe paying the bill, and the positive experience is fresh in their mind. It's about timing and minimal friction for the customer. This helps ensure the positive profiles you build are actually filled with feedback reflecting real quality, not just, incentivized responses.
Right, capturing the feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
And we can't overlook the role of content marketing here either, right, in supporting that offensive strategy.
Yep.
Absolutely not. Content marketing here isn't just, blogging about random stuff. It's using content specifically designed to highlight unique business strengths, real expertise. So if a specialty shop is known for, say, classic car restoration, then high-quality content, maybe photos or videos documenting a beautiful restoration they did, that builds instant authority and expertise. This proactively builds trust with a potential customer before they even look at the star rating. It sets a positive context for any future interaction, and it minimizes the impact of any, negative outlier review that might pop up later.
Okay. So we've talked about the high stakes, the specific ecosystems involved, the technical strategies needed, both defense and offense. So what does this all really mean for the bottom line? Why is dedicating significant resources to reputation management actually an essential business investment, not just some kind of marketing afterthought?
The sources are very explicit about this. Investing in a strong online reputation, it feeds directly into three core benefits. Benefits that really underpin profitability in this sector. First, and maybe most foundational, it builds trust. And in a high-risk industry like automotive, transactions, well, they only happen when trust is present. It's fundamental.
Okay, trust first. Makes sense.
Second, that trust translates directly into attracting more customers. A strong reputation simply increases the flow, both physical foot traffic to the dealership or shop and digital traffic to the website. Why? because you aren't being automatically filtered out by that huge 86% avoidance rate we talked about.
Right, you stay in the running.
Oh,
And the third benefit.
well, when you successfully combine that high trust with high traffic, the sources confirm the final payoff. It drives higher sales. Simple as that. It converts that traffic into actual revenue because the perceived risk for the buyer is lower. A well-managed reputation acts like a powerful preemptive endorsement. It does the selling before the salesperson even starts talking.
Hmm. So the bottom line here really is that the sources treat reputation less like traditional marketing and more like essential risk management. Is that fair?
I think that's exactly right. That strong connection between reputation and revenue is why the final warning from the sources is so stark. It basically says, you cannot afford to let negative reviews or misleading content hold your business back.
Mm.
There's an active constraint holding back your growth, holding back your profitability.
Wow. Okay. That synthesis leaves us with a very, very clear message for you, the listener. The sources make it undeniably clear that in the automotive world, the battle for sales, it's won or lost before a customer ever steps through the door. It's won on the review page. It's won in the search results that pop up on their phone. And this raises, I think, a pretty important question.
Yeah, definitely. If reputation monitoring and repair are now essential business functions, functions that require specialized SEO, technical integration, constant vigilance, then how much time and resources are you actually dedicating to optimizing your local visibility? Specifically that proactive work, like mastering your Google business profile, versus simply, reacting in panic mode when a bad review suddenly pops up.
The power, it seems, ultimately lies in being proactive. If you're waiting for a crisis to happen with your reputation, you are, in effect, already losing sales. You just might not see it directly yet.
Thanks for diving deep with us today on this really fascinating stuff. We'll catch you next time as we unpack the next set of sources you've shared.